Now you could win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hello there, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is Dewbs & Co. Coming up tonight, well, she is free. Lucy Connolly, of course, released from prison. Nigel Farage says, and I quote, "She's a symbol of Keir Starmer's authoritarian, broken, two-tier Britain." What do you think to that? Is that harsh or is that fair? And we've got new asylum and immigration stats out today. Let's take a look at them. And GCSE results day today as well. Bridget Phillipson says that white working-class low achievement is, I quote, a national disgrace. So what's causing that then, and how do we fix it? And speaking of fixing things, this flag business is spreading. Even Robert Jenrick now has been half away up a lamppost. What do you think to all of this? And keeping me company tonight, I've got my panel, Kelvin Mackenzie, the former editor of The Sun, and Joe Phillips, the journalist and former press secretary to Paddy Ashdown. But before we get stuck in, let's give you your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Michelle, thank you, and good evening to you. The top story tonight at 6. A woman jailed for a race hate post after the Southport killings is today out of prison. Lucy Connolly from Northampton was handed a 31-month sentence last year after she urged her followers on the social platform X to, quote, set fire to hotels housing asylum seekers. The 42-year-old has now been released from HMP Peterborough after serving 40% of her term. The rest will be on licence under probation. Connolly's case has fuelled a row over free speech. Supporters, including the Free Speech Union, call her punishment a national scandal. But judges said she had a clear intent to incite violence. Well, breaking in the last hour or so, Britain's third largest steelworks has collapsed into government control, throwing 1,500 jobs into jeopardy. A High Court judge ruled Speciality Steels UK hopelessly insolvent, with just £600,000 in the bank against a monthly wage bill of £3.7 million. The Rotherham and Sheffield plants will now be run by the government while a buyer is sought. Creditors say liquidation is the only way to restart steel production, but Liberty insists the move is irrational and is still hoping, they say, to buy the business back, with backing from BlackRock. Unions call it another tragedy for UK steel after years of decline in the industry's heartlands. Kemi Badenoch has accused Labour of stalling progress on asylum hotels. That's despite the latest Home Office figures showing numbers are now down from their peak. The Conservative leader says all reductions happened before last year's election, claiming that if that pace had continued, she says, there would be no asylum hotels in use today. New data shows more than 32,000 asylum seekers were still housed in hotels up to the end of June. That's up 8% on a year ago, but well below the record high in 2023. The figures also reveal a record number of asylum claims, though officials say cases are being processed faster. It comes as councils, including Labour-run Wirral and Tamworth, weigh legal action to stop hotels from being used after a High Court ruling in Epping set a precedent. Well, earlier we spoke to Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp, who gave us his thoughts on the situation.
Labour has lost control of our borders. The number of illegal immigrants crossing the Channel has surged under Labour. It's gone up by 47% since the general election. This year so far has been the worst ever. And because of Labour's border crisis, we're seeing people still being accommodated in these hotels. But now councils are fighting back, led by Conservative-run Epping. And we're now calling on other Conservative councils to look at legal challenges as well. And many are doing so, including Broxbourne next door.
The GCSE pass rate has slipped slightly this year. 67.4% of grades in England, Wales and Northern Ireland hit a standard pass of 4 or C and above. While the proportion of top marks has edged up, exam chiefs say the system is now facing a resit crisis, with a record number of teenagers having to retake English and maths. But fewer than 1 in 5 are passing on that second attempt. Meanwhile, the gender gap has narrowed to its lowest level on record, and the regional divide has also shrunk. But education leaders warn the COVID generation is still carrying the cost of disrupted schooling, as calls now grow for reform over compulsory resits. A US hitwoman has been jailed for 30 years after flying to Britain to carry out a failed assassination in Birmingham. 45-year-old Amy Betro travelled from Wisconsin in 2019 as part of a violent family feud. She ambushed businessman Secunda Ali outside his home, but when she pulled the trigger, her gun jammed and he escaped. Betro later fled the country and sparked an international manhunt. Detectives say it was only by luck that her victim wasn't killed. Campaigners here are urging Parliament to ban smacking across the country after new polling suggests young adults are turning against it. Scotland outlawed smacking in 2020, followed by Wales in 2022, but in England and Northern Ireland, parents can still claim reasonable punishment as a defence if they hit their child. Doctors and psychiatrists, though, say the research is clear. Physical punishment can cause, they say, long-term harm. They're also calling on MPs to follow Scotland and Wales and make smacking illegal everywhere. And the world's oldest living person has just celebrated the grand age of 116. And yes, she's from Britain. Ethel Caterham, who lives in Surrey in a care home, was born in 1909, 5 years before the First World War. She became the oldest person alive in May of this year after the death of a Brazilian nun. Her family says she's marking that grand milestone quietly, surrounded by loved ones, so she can enjoy the day at her own pace. Well, she certainly earned it. Congratulations to her. Those are the headlines. Now it's over to Michelle.
Thank you very much for that. I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co with you till 7 alongside me, my panel. A man that's almost catching up with that lady you just heard there celebrating her 116th birthday, Kelvin Mackenzie. That'll be you in a few years, won't it,
yes,
Kelvin?
It will, yes.
He's the former editor of The Sun, of course. He's very, very welcome. He's not really nearly 116. He's about 98 at my last count, I think. Alongside him, someone that's much younger than Kelvin, aren't you? Joe Phillips, the journalist and former press secretary to Paddy. That's a good innings, that lady, isn't it?
Oh, fantastic. What a brilliant life.
Amazing.
I always want to know what's your
Edwardian.
secret. What's your secret?
She said she didn't have any secrets. She said, I heard her on the radio earlier, and she said she had no secrets. She never argued with anybody, which must make for quite a boring life. But she did what she wanted.
Did what she wanted.
Well, she must be the only woman who hasn't been on GBNews, I should think.
Well, I was just going to say, how do you even get through your life without arguing?
Well, exactly.
Ever? with anyone on any level.
It wouldn't suit you, Michelle.
He would know if that's the measure of a long life. I'm absolutely astonished that I'm still alive at 21 years of age, actually, everyone. Anyway, many happy returns to that lady. What a great innings. And if she has got a secret, I always want to know what she tipple. I always think that your little tipple that you have on the night, that's often the secret, isn't it, if you ask me? Or maybe I'm just trying to justify my own behaviour. Anyway, get in touch, join the conversation in all the usual ways. GB News. gbviews@gbnews.com is the email. You can go to the website, gbnews.com/yoursay. Of course, you can tweet or you can X me. Now, Lucy Connolly, we've spoken about this lady often. Of course, she became such a symbol for what happened in those riots. Of course, we'll all know her face by now. Well, she has just been released from prison. Of course, she was jailed for apparently inciting racial hatred. Of course, we all know this story well, don't we? She's got a young daughter. She's been the subject of fierce debate. It really does divide people whether or not she should have been in prison or not, whether her sentence of 31 months was unduly harsh or was it fair. Nigel Farage, his tweet caught my eye today. He basically said, "Welcome to freedom, Lucy Connolly. You are now a symbol of Keir Starmer's authoritarian, broken two-tier Britain." What do you make to all of this, Kelvin McKenzie?
Well, it was a shocking sentence, and she played it. I hesitate to say this, but knowing the way the judicial system works for that Dartford Labour councillor, she played it completely wrong. She should have played the mental health card like he did. She should have played it long, i.e. gone sick and also kept on chopping and changing her legal representation. And she should have pleaded not guilty. And had she done that, I suspect the maximum she would have got would have been some kind of suspended sentence. But of course, she wasn't a Labour councillor. She was married to a Conservative councillor. And this played nicely to the Prime Minister then being able to deploy actually his soft powers, which basically made it clear that he wanted to see people involved in those riots. By the way, I'm wholly in favour of the violence. A tweet is not violence. It does not encourage people to do anything. It is simply a moment of anger and a moment of time. And the idiot judge, fearing that his own position would be affected, as has actually turns out to be, you can only get promotion within the judicial system if you act in a group like they do. He decided, I tell you what I'll do, I will establish myself and give her 31 months. When you think of the number of paedophiles, the number of fraudsters, the number of violence people who have never received that, it's an absolute disgrace, and it will hang round Starmer's neck, and I am delighted, but I feel sorry for that lady. Let's just remind ourselves, before I bring Joe in, about Keir Starmer. This is what he had to say. I think it was 2012 when he was the Director of Public Prosecutions. Take a listen.
We're making a clear distinction between communications that are credible threats or that amount to a campaign of harassment on the one hand. Those types of cases will be robustly prosecuted. On the other hand, where a communication is, as it were, merely offensive, grossly offensive, etc., then principles of free speech and free expression require there to be a high threshold and dictate that a prosecution is unlikely to be in the public interest in many of those cases.
You were just clapping then.
Well, I agree with him. Principles of free speech. Actually, I'm not in favour of what she said, but I'm not in favour of her being sent to jail for it.
Joe?
Well, there's one thing that Kelvin's right on, is that she was ridiculous to plead guilty, but she did plead guilty, and that's why she didn't have a trial by jury, which was the case of the Dartford councillor that you're referring to. So she could have done that. I don't know who her advisors were. I think people who think it's a conspiracy theory because her husband was a Tory councillor are talking absolute nonsense. She incited people to go and burn down hotels with people, human beings in them.
How do you know she did? What's your evidence that those people that trotted off to go and set fire to those buildings was incited by her?
There is no evidence.
Well, why are you saying that? She did
because
that,
that's
then?
what she said in her tweet.
Yeah,
She
but
said,
what's the link? So I know what
Well,
she said, and
no,
it was repugnant, but what is the link that anyone looked at Lucy Connolly's tweet and thought to themselves, I'm really bored tonight, so Lucy Connolly, this absolute random that I've never met, that I don't know, literally within this 3-hour window that I've just glanced at Twitter has told me, set fire to them all for all I care, and therefore I'm going to get off my sofa, put my trackies on and go and set fire to them. Who's made that link?
But that is not the point, Michelle,
Well, it's a
whether
very good
anybody
point.
did do that. The fact is that she put out a tweet inciting, which she admitted, racial hatred and violence. She admitted that. She pleaded guilty to it. She also had a history of putting out revolting racist comments before this case was actually heard. She's served less than 50% of her sentence. She's come out after 9
Do you know
months.
what? That also made me laugh, actually. The fact is she served what she would have got, because when you're under 4 years, you're only going to do 40% of your certain sentence. You would have thought, actually, because this was kind of a paper crime, right? Nothing actually happened. Nobody was bashed over the head. There was no drugs exchanged. There was nothing, right? You would have thought, actually, with the fact that they needed to clear people out of a jail, that she'd be entirely the right person to do it. No, they kept her there right to the bitter end. And as I understand the way she was treated in there, that was completely wrong. Completely wrong. I just can't understand. But this is the country. I agree with you. She was mad to have ever pleaded guilty. I think she pleaded guilty under advice from her lawyer, who said that if you play this wrongly, right, i.e. you plead not guilty and it goes against you, you're going to end up getting 5 years or something.
Yes.
So I would like to see, have you ever heard her defence counsel come forward and explain the situation? I'd like to see him on GBNews and be cross-questioned about how this ever happened. I feel desperate for that woman. Now, the other thing she could do, actually, is stand as A, counsellor, or B, stand as a candidate for something. I think she would do bizarrely well. I think people feel that she has been unreasonably sentenced.
What she said and her history of what she put on Twitter and her social media feed is disgusting. What she said in the tweet that she admitted to inciting hatred and violence.
She also admitted that she, in fact, she killed it, actually, 4 hours later.
Yeah, by which point...
Did you see it? Did you see her tweet?
No, I'm not on Twitter.
Did I see it?
No.
Well, you should... Actually, how you can appear on GB News without being on Twitter is
Quite
absolute
easily.
Disgrace. Get out. Right. But, Michelle, did you read it? Did you read it?
Not at the time, absolutely not. Of course,
fine. I
subsequently.
didn't read it.
But yeah,
how many people? I mean, there were actually the idea that suddenly somebody says, "Oh, Lucy Connolly, a woman we've never heard of. We must rush out the door and set fire to a house." It's absurd.
That is not the point.
It is the point.
It isn't.
It is the point.
The point is she...
It's the point the judge didn't take into account.
She should have gone into a trial by jury, and she might have had a much lesser sentence.
The judge himself should have said what he often says when you have disgraceful trials of people being beaten within half of their life. "Oh, I think you're quite a good person. I don't think this will happen again. I'll give you a 2-year suspended." Why didn't he do that?
Well,
no, seriously, why didn't he do it?
I don't know. I wasn't in court.
I don't know either. But I tell you what makes me think he didn't do it. He didn't do it because he knew that the Prime Minister and the rest of that clapped-out cabinet were looking at this trial saying, "We are putting you to the test, matey, and if you want preferment within the judicial system, you'll give her a stinker."
Well,
and they gave her a stinker.
And I think she deserved it. I think she's a disgrace, and if she stands as a counsellor...
I'll be delighted when she comes on here.
Well, I'm sure she will.
When she comes on GB News.
I'm sure she will. I'm sure she'll be feted, and she will be...
No, she won't, because you'll be on there giving her grief.
And she will be manipulated by people who want to hold her up as a martyr without looking at what
I think at 31 months,
but she didn't.
At 31 months, she's entitled... Yeah, but when she heard that, she didn't know what was going to happen. At 31 months, she's entitled to us feeling that, or I particularly feel that this was an exceptional trial for somebody who actually, didn't have the brains to do the slightest bit of damage.
Do you know,
it's just a piece of anger.
I've got to say as well, because we're all sitting here saying, "Oh, she shouldn't have pled guilty," and all the rest of it. And she's got a daughter. I think that daughter's about 12 now. And I wonder how much her daughter actually sees. And I wonder, when you hear people saying, basically, to this daughter, "Your mum shouldn't have done this. Your mum was away from you and in prison because she did this decision to plead guilty." I wonder how that makes that daughter feel. And I think it's really easy for us all to sit in a TV studio and say she shouldn't have pled guilty, because I agree, I don't think she should have.
Yeah.
But what we're not understanding understanding, sitting in our comfy little chairs in our comfy little studio, is how it must feel if you've never been in trouble at all with the law, you're all of a sudden taken out of your home, you're stuck behind bars in a climate that you know is very, very febrile, it's very kind of, panicked and all the rest of it, and you are categorically told you're not going to be bailed. I mean, why was she not bailed? She was not a flight risk. She's got no track record of anything. She's locked in a cell. She's denied bail. She will have been told all of this stuff. Look, she will probably have been told stuff like, right, if you plead guilty, then you'll be back home to see your daughter at Christmas. She's probably been told, you are definitely going to prison. But what your choice now is it a long sentence or a short sentence? That woman was probably panicked within an inch of her life.
She had the same access to any legal advice that anybody would have. She chose to take that advice. It was probably the wrong advice. A jury...
Well, she chose to take the duty solicitor, I think.
Right. That's a very interesting point you make there, right? When that Dartford councillor, right, of course, he had a KC, right? Didn't have some two-bob barrister, right? Had a KC, right? Who do you think funded that KC? Couldn't have been his trade union funded it, could they?
I've got no idea.
Yeah, exactly. The point I'm making is that this guy played the mental health card, he pleaded not guilty, and he had a KC.
She didn't... if it gets nasty, I'll play the mental health card. She said that. They'd have evidence of that's what she was going to do.
Right, but anyway...
the only thing I would say...
Do you believe that she should have been... if you'd sat on the jury, would you have made her guilty?
Yes. Absolutely.
Really?
And I hope it serves as... I mean, I'd much rather...
Oh, right. OK, let's get this right. Are you saying... You nearly said it there.
What?
You think that this is going to serve to stop other people saying that kind of stuff? Because that is madness.
I would hope that it makes people stop and think about the consequences of their words.
No.
People take to Twitter,
they're
anonymous.
A tweet is neither here nor there, and I suggest you go onto it because actually there's half the country is on it. And you're supposed to be a public speaker about these kinds of things. So how are you supposed to know what people are thinking?
I don't think I want to be on something that has somebody like Jess Phillips, a government minister, 600 rape threats in a day.
Yeah, well, Jess Phillips gets all this stuff because of the nonsense that she keeps on spouting.
So it's
no,
right.
I'm not in favour of it. All I'm saying is it would be helpful for her. It would be helpful for her and helpful for other cabinet people in the ministry if they stopped saying stupid things and inviting nasty people to say stuff.
Like things about domestic violence. Those sort of stupid things. Is that what you mean, Kelvin?
She seems to be. She seems to be in favour. She seems to be in favour of acting for people until it turns out to be one of their lot, and then when it turns out to be a Labour lot, she seems to back off about 100 miles an hour. I haven't heard her talk about the Dartford Labour councillor saying like to cut people's throats. No. Do you ever hear anybody say anything from the cabinet?
I haven't heard anybody say anything other than the fact that the people were surprised, but made the point that he chose to plead not guilty and therefore went to a trial by jury.
Just do want to make a couple of points. Obviously, unless I've missed something, there was no evidence that any union, of course, funded that Ricky Jones case. I don't know.
Well, where do you think he got KC's? Can afford a KC at
I've got no idea. I'm just trying to do my sensible legal thing that I'm supposed to do. Thank you. Stop interrupting me. And then the other point, of course, that I've got to make, if Lucy Connolly's lawyer was here, he would argue, he would push back that she was properly advised. And if you, as a keen follower of this case, you will remember that when it actually went to the appeal, one of the things that they put forward was that Lucy hadn't understood the charges against her. And of course, I have to remind you all that that bit was dismissed. The million-dollar question for me as well is, where's James Timpson in all of this? This prison minister, a man that I quite like and respect, actually, he's always banging on about how women shouldn't be in prison and about how women shouldn't be separated from their children. He's very much in favour, from what I've seen, of softer justice, I would argue, for women. Where's he been throughout this whole case? Why hasn't he been standing up and demanding that this mother gets reunited with her child?
It's not a prison's minister's job, Michelle, to intervene in the process of justice.
Well, what's he intervening all the time on everything else for then? Constantly saying that women should get lesser sentences than men. Constantly saying that you should look at things like tagging and all the rest of it then.
I don't think he had even been appointed when she was sentenced.
Yes, he had. He was appointed on July the 5th, 2024. Thank you very much. Right, everybody. Coming up after the break. I don't know, what are you laughing at? What are you laughing at?
He loves it when it's 2 against 1.
I think it's disgraceful the way you're putting down my rival in this.
I'm not putting anyone down.
rival.
I'm
just here
here
with
to
the
defend
facts.
my rival's ability to have free speech, and if she gets something wrong, it's not nice of you to expose her to millions of
My
GBNews.
job is to ensure that we deal in facts, ladies and gents, and I make
Very
no apology
good.
for that. Anyway, look, coming up after the break, lots that we need to discuss. I want to talk to you about the asylum and immigration stats. We'll explore that. I also want to ask you, why do we keep failing white working class pupils? I'll see you in a minute.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewberry, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, just like week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
All right, Kelvin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We're all now getting up on each other, quite frankly. It's Kelvin McKenzie that's going to get the kicking next. Don't worry about that. He's alongside me, as is Joe Phillips. Now, let's talk about the white working class. Are you white working class? How did you get on at school? At the moment, I've got to tell you that these young kids, they do seem to be bottom of the pile when it comes to quite a lot of stuff. Apparently, 4/5 of children from these backgrounds struggle when it comes to achievements with maths and English. Why are we failing these kids in this way?
First of all, nobody's given us stuff about white kids, whether they're working class or middle class. In my lifetime, there's never been a moment at which any push by any Prime Minister to really sort out this problem has ever been carried out. I'm blaming the Tories just the same. Nobody on the Tory side. If you just take the last 10 to 14 years, Cameron and co couldn't give a stuff about them. And then before that, Blair and Brown, they didn't seem to care much. So we've had at least 3 or 4 decades now. So it's of no surprise to me. I think because all the focus is making sure that the minority communities, who have done spectacularly in London, by the way. Minority communities have the teachers and the schooling in order to make something of their lives. And I could have understood that back in the 60s or something. But now we have proof that these kids are being left behind. I blame the parents mainly.
Do you? How so?
Because they don't... nobody is saying to their kids, you have to get on. If you come from an Asian community, right, the idea of you being just not doing the work, not getting on, not getting a good degree. If you go to those universities when the degrees are handed out, and they ask you not to do this, the parents are all there for when the degrees get handed out. When up comes an Asian kid, all the families abandon the rules on it. They all stand up, "Hooray!" and they cheer like that. That is not the white community. Don't feel like that. I think they've taken education as something that you're bound to have. You're bound to get on if you're white. You know that is no longer true. By the way, you look at what businesses, the people who are running successful, surprising businesses today are often minority communities, right? Who are putting every effort into it. We have got to understand that. So our kids are the result of the failure of parents, of white parents, and also the failure of the politicals running the education system to say this is a problem. Somebody has got to tell these white kids, you are not going to be in work in the future. It's going to, all right?
Well, can I just come in on this? Because my mum will be watching this. Hello, Mother. And my mum will be sitting there listening to what you're saying. I'm white working class, and I did absolutely terribly at school.
So did I.
Yeah, I couldn't care less about school. I was never, ever at school. My mother tried everything. My poor mum was desperate for me to go to school, desperate for me to pay attention, and I've got strong memories of my mother chasing me around Costello Pond, for anyone that's in Hull, trying to literally grab hold of me by the scruff of the neck to yank me to that school, and I was having none of it.
Right,
so parents often do try. It's the kids that weren't.
But the issue now is that I took 17 GCSEs in 2 separate tranches, right, and I got 1, right. That today
I bet they weren't
put
GCSEs in those days. I bet they weren't GCSEs.
No, they weren't. They were O-levels. But I said it for GCSEs so that the younger element of this panel could understand it. Right? So, So that won't get you anywhere. By the way, Michelle, I don't know how old you are. I could
21.
guess, and it's probably worth looking on.
21.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is not going to be helpful to you anymore. Just having ambition is very good, but we want our people, we want our kids to be bright. And my feeling right now is that white children are not ambitious enough.
Yeah.
They're not, and they've got to be driven, and that's what I admire some of the Asian communities. I don't admire all the Asian communities, but I admire that. Sorry.
She's very patient. Go, Jo.
Sorry, Jo.
Very patient.
Go on.
Sorry.
And actually, I do agree with that thing, that there is a huge lack of ambition. But I think that comes from, if you live in an area where there is no work, there are no prospects, and you've got a mum and a dad and brothers and sisters and uncles and aunts who haven't got really good jobs or don't do anything. And I think this whole thing about, self-belief and ambition, it's fine, but it doesn't make up for the skills and the education that you need in a very competitive environment. I think the other point that Kelvin made about kids in London, money has been poured into inner cities.
It has.
But at the expense of, provincial coastal areas, particularly rundown areas, rundown towns. And you've got this thing that we saw the decline of, people who'll say, oh, grammar schools are wonderful. Well, they were, if you were lucky enough to go to them, but they also sat alongside the old technical schools, which meant that there was another way in to do stuff for kids that weren't that academically bright, so they could, learn a trade, learn a skill. That's now gone out the window because everybody's lumped in, and what happens is if you're bad and naughty, you get attention. If you're quite good and in the grammar stream, you're all right. And if you're in the middle, you are just stuck and you sink or swim. And the teachers can't deal with the children. And you've got parents who won't support the teachers when they crack down on things like uniform or attendance. You've got hugely high truancy rates. And you've also got the fact that, we're seeing this at secondary age, so 15, 16-year-olds. This starts back before they even start school. And, you know, one of the things that did work in terms of inequality was Sure Start, which the Blair government brought in, and the Tories then scrapped it. Now, you know, this government's looking at bringing in something else like that, but it starts from, you know, the beginning, from birth and before birth.
Paul has got in touch. He says, I agree with Kelvin. Instead of asking what other people are doing to fail these kids, why aren't you asking these parents what they are doing to fail their own kids? He's asking, why is everything always the state's problem? You're really divided on that one. I can tell you now. We'll come back to some of your comments on that, but after the break, I want to explore these new immigration and asylum stats that have come out today. They don't look good, I can tell you that for free. I'll see you in a sec.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hot and sunny conditions continue across much of Spain and Portugal. A few heavy showers likely in Croatia. And a fairly brisk wind blowing in Sardinia. Quite breezy too in southern parts of Portugal. But most of Spain and Portugal dry, fine and sunny. Just a small chance of a shower in Ibiza. Much greater chance of seeing some heavy showers across Croatia. Fine and sunny for most of the Greek islands and Turkey. That will continue through the weekend as well. Goodbye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening, I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, as we go through the next 24 hours, it's a case of chasing the cloud, because where it clears overnight, it's going to turn a little chilly, and where it clears tomorrow, it's going to be quite warm in the sunshine. Currently, there is high pressure of sorts to the west of the UK. This is keeping things pretty settled. It has also brought that northerly flow down the North Sea, which has led to a bit of a chilly feel around eastern parts through today, and it's also leading to a fair bit of cloud across central and eastern parts overnight, albeit parts of East Anglia, maybe Kent, having some clear skies. Also clear skies for western parts of Scotland, Wales, maybe southwest England. And under these clear skies, temperatures could drop in rural spots to low single figures, but most places under the cloud holding up in double digits, and some milder, cloudier, perhaps even damper weather pushing across Northern Ireland later on in the night. Starting off tomorrow morning, where we get the clear skies overnight, there could be some mist and fog patches first thing, but these will quite quickly clear. Otherwise, it's a bright start for some, but quite cloudy in a few other places. Cloudy across Northern Ireland, much of Northern England, and across central and eastern parts of Scotland, quite a cloudy start. A bit brighter towards western parts of Scotland, albeit with a few showery outbreaks around the Western Isles, perhaps. Then, as we go through tomorrow, I'm expecting some of the cloud to break up, so most of us should see some bright, if not sunny spells developing. Not everywhere though, cloud staying quite persistent across parts of Northern Ireland and down the eastern side of Northern England, and perhaps eastern parts of Scotland too. Where the cloud does clear though, temperatures should rise relatively nicely. We're looking at highs around 23, possibly 24 Celsius, so feeling warm, perhaps a bit warmer than today. Then as we go into Saturday and the start of the long bank holiday weekend, there could be a few showery bursts, particularly across some western parts, but most places staying dry, and there will be some decent sunny breaks on offer as well. Perhaps more sunshine developing as we go through Sunday and into Monday, and with that, temperatures rising as well. Whatever you're up to, have a lovely evening.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. Roadworks on the M4 eastbound at junction 42, Earlswood have closed the on-slip with diversions. The A76 is shut between Auchinleck and Cumnock for overnight works. In Stockton-on-Tees, lane closures on the A19 southbound due to an earlier collision are causing 30-minute delays until nearly 7. On the M6 southbound between junction 6 and junction 4A near Birmingham, one lane remains closed. There are 10-minute delays on the A27 westbound between Chichester and A286 due to congestion. Disruption in the Wigan northwestern area is causing delays between Edinburgh and Haymarket. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Right. Hello everyone, Michelle Dewberry alongside me, Kelvin McKenzie and Joe Phillips. I've just got a bit of gossip in the break, and very, very quickly, because I've got someone waiting to talk to me. You've just told me that Kelvin McKenzie once fired you. Why?
Because I thought she was hopeless.
Oh,
and actually, nothing that's happened tonight.
No. No, but Kelvin, is it not true that several days after you'd fired me, you then said to people, "What are all these posters for? These awards?" And they said, "That's Jo. You just fired her."
Well,
I mean,
I'm not.
Actually, the truth was that I was absolutely useless owning talk radio. I changed it to Talk Sport, and it turned out to be very
and it was
successful.
lovely then.
Well, there you go.
And I walked straight out the door and went to the BBC.
Exactly.
And anyway,
all right, you two. It was only supposed to be a very quick
being
reference.
sacked by Kelvin Mackenzie does not put you in an elite group, Michelle, I have to say.
Well, there you go. They were just saying that as we came back on air, so I just wanted to explore it. Well, now we all know. Anyway, look, let's talk about Asylum figures, shall we? Get this, everyone. Stats out today. It shows some eye-watering figures. 111,000 people have applied for asylum during Keir Starmer's first year in office. Let me cross, without further ado, shall we, to Jamie Jenkins. He's also known as Stats Jamie. Jamie, we've not had you on this programme for a while. We do like a statistician. Talk us through, if you will, the key takeaways from this data today.
Yeah, good evening, Michelle. So I think the key thing which we've seen is what you've just touched upon. So this is record number of applications for asylum now in the year to June 2025. So that's up to 111,000. And there's a lot of talk in the media about the small boats, and they make up about 43,000 of those claims. So actually what you tend to find then is there's more asylum claims that are not coming over on the small boats. And people might be thinking, well, what are you talking about? All we seem to see is people coming on the boats and all the coverage is about that. So if we break down that 111,000 and then we look at the most common countries that the people are coming from, what's surprising, I suppose, is the one that tops the list is Pakistan, then Afghanistan, and then Iran. So of the 111,000 there, Michelle, with the graphic on the screen for those who are watching, that's broken down into 175 different countries overall. That's where you've kind of got these asylum claims come from. But 1 in 10 of them are coming from Pakistan. Now, the very few come from Pakistan over on the small boats. Actually, what you tend to find is the vast majority of them are coming through the airports on visas, and then they decide to claim asylum when they're here. So it's about 11,000, 1 in 10. And I think that's the stark thing that we've got to remember with these asylum figures. It's not always the small boats that we need to be considering. It's the potential abuse of the visa system as well.
Indeed. Let me ask you about this. You say the most common nationality, or these stats say most common nationality to arrive in small boats was Afghan. Now, there's been a bit of a toing and froing about some figures that have been thrown around about this, because some stats, people like Nigel Farage, etc., are saying that these Afghans are 22, or some of them 22 times more likely to commit things like sexual assault. Other people are debunking that figure and saying it's nonsense, it's more like 3 times. I've seen you then return and debunk that debunking. So what is the reality?
Yeah, so this is a bit of comparing apples and pears. So Sky News were kind of fact-checking Nigel Farage on this. He quoted that Afghans were 22 times more likely to commit sex crimes than UK-born people. If you look at the figures, Michelle, they were published and released by nationality by the kind of the police and the MOJ on this. So when you look at a nationality and you look at a country of birth, what you got to remember is that people over time, they become kind of British nationals. So they might have been born in Afghanistan, but they become British nationals. So when you look at the nationality figures, you then have to divide the nationality crime figures by the nationality population figures. Now, what Sky News did is they took the nationality crime figures, divided by the country of birth, which severely reduces the crime rate for the Afghan population. And it's just methodology, the method is completely flawed in terms of doing that. So the actual true figure is much, much closer pretty much to Nigel Farage's claim of 22 times than 3 times. I'm surprised Sky News haven't really taken that down from the website, really, but because it's absolute nonsense.
I'm surprised by that, and that's why I wanted to clarify that with you, because this does come up time and time again. But for now, Jamie Jenkins, what a treat to have you back with us. You will join us again soon, but for now, thank you for that insight, and I'm sorry for keeping you waiting as well. Kelvin Mackenzie, your thoughts?
Well, we will be having discussions like this, I would suspect, for the next 4 years until Starmer's thrown out, unless something is done. And ECHR plays a role. But the truth about the matter is that the Refugee Convention of 1951, I'm afraid, has to be changed in some massive way, because otherwise we could have 150 million people want to come through our borders, and there's nothing we could do about it. I mean, the idea that everybody's now flying in from Pakistan is absolutely disgraceful. And actually, when the Refugee Convention was first put together, it was designed, really, to handle probably a couple of million from Europe. Nobody had any idea that, you know, the Sudans of this world would turn up on our doorstep. So that needs to be dealt with. Otherwise, honestly, we can have a conversation like this every day. And even that Guardian columnist, Polly
Toynbee,
has now said that something has to be done. Well, when an old, clapped-out lefty like her starts saying that something must be done about the Refugee Convention, you know you've finally reached the end of the road. We have to do something, unless there are people in our country, and I suspect Joe may be one of them, who thinks it's perfectly all right that everybody who turns up with some kind of holiday visa can now, immediately they arrive here, suddenly say, I tell you what I'm going to do, I'm going to apply to stay in the UK.
have you got a very long contract for that charm school, advertising it? Clapped out old lefty.
I know he says that as though it's like a young spring chicken or something, but I let that one slide.
Anyway, there is no doubt that these figures are a disaster for the government, on top of what we've already learnt this week about the court ruling on the hotel in Epping. And I think, you know, to a certain extent, I think Kelvin is right that there are now much more open discussions across the broader political spectrum, instead of, you know, sort of hoping it will go away, which I think has been it's been part of the problem. And I think it's been part of the problem, which is why people in some communities have felt that nobody's recognised or listened to them or heard their concerns, which is why things have got slightly out of hand. And there is no doubt that, you know, the Refugee Convention and the European Convention on Human Rights, they need to be reviewed, and they need to be redesigned, because this is not a problem that is unique to Britain. It's Europe-wide, and most European countries are now looking at how they can do it. I mean, Sweden's really cracking down on immigration. But, you know, there are figures bandied around. There are the government inherited a ghastly problem of massive backlog. The previous government started putting asylum seekers, refugees into hotels, and to a certain extent they put them there and they ignored them and they forgot about it while they let the backlog build up. Now, that doesn't make it any easier for this government, but they are beginning to process them more quickly.
Do you know, Joe, though, but we've been talking about the government doing stuff.
Yeah, I know.
For the whole, since July the 4th, July the 5th. And by the way, we talked about it before, and nobody seems to have, and you would have thought with the majority as big as that they have in Parliament, that Labour could simply say, we are going to do this, and it would happen. But actually, no politician of any colour really seems able to want to get to grips with this. Yes, it will involve something dramatic to happen, and it may involve some violence, I suspect. Well, but actually, I can't believe we can carry on every night. How many nights in a week are you discussing race in some form or another?
Every week.
Eight nights a week.
Yeah, correct.
Listen, no one wants violence, obviously. Tomorrow night, I've got Matt Goodwin on my programme, and I want to explore in that programme as well the demographic change of all of this, because many places now are changing beyond recognisability, and lots of people actually think this is a problem, but it's one that's hardly ever discussed. And also in Greece, I found it fascinating there, what they've done is this whole ECHR thing, they're not having any of this anymore. They've basically declared a state of emergency. They've temporarily suspended some facets of this ECHR, apparently, and they're having absolutely none of it. They've put this pause on these so-called asylum seekers. For 3 months, they've got the Navy patrolling some elements of coastline as well. They really are not messing around. So that beggars the question, doesn't it then? If other countries that have the same legal obligations as us, apparently, are able to sort this problem out, well, surely then that means that there must be a lack of political will. Is that true? We will explore that in greater detail tomorrow. Joe's itching to get back in.
Well, only because I want you to question Matt Goodwin on the changing demographic is also down to the huge increase in legal migration that was...
I know, but people don't care whether it's legal or illegal. The fact is that people's neighbourhoods are changing beyond recognition.
People's neighbourhoods are changing, and they will say, oh, it is obvious because there are people who are a different colour to me. Yeah. So there are obvious things, or clothes or whatever. But many of those people are here legally because Boris Johnson made it a lot easier for people to come here.
Yeah, what Boris Johnson did was the height of pillory, and I am going to get that word trademarked.
I think it sounds like a village in Scotland.
I think it's a great word because it was ridiculous. But for me, when people's city, town, village, whatever it is, has literally changed beyond recognition, they don't sit there and go, oh, well, it's all right, it's not a problem because it's all legal migration. They sit there and they go, no, we voted against this repeatedly and consistently, and we've not been listened to by the political elite. In fact, not only have we not been listened to, we've been ignored, and the exact opposite has been done.
Well,
People are furious.
They voted for a complete pack of lies because all the people that were working here before Brexit, the Romanians and the Poles and the people from Eastern Europe, they came over, they worked hard and they went home.
Well, they voted for controlled immigration, Jo.
And they've got
repeatedly.
Repeatedly.
Time and time.
Nobody on this particular subject. It's only, by the way, since GB News, it's only over the last 4 or 5 years that suddenly race and migration has become a subject which you could have on a TV station. On the BBC, if you mentioned race like that, you immediately deemed a racist and be kicked off.
But you've got to have
I'll tell you what I've got to do. I've got to go to a break. 'Cause if I don't go to a break, I've pushed my timings all over the place, and everyone gets in touch and goes, oh, Michelle, all you ever do is go to a break. Yes, because these two won't stop talking, and they've messed up my timings. I'll see you in a second. We'll talk about Robert Jenrick up a lamppost. See you in 2.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Yes, indeed, Robert Jenrick. He was halfway up a lamppost with a flag. You can tell me whether or not you like this whole flag movement. These two were chatting non-stop, so I might have to get into that a little bit more detail tomorrow. But for now, it's not just us ranting and raving about the state of the nation. Oh, no, it's Brits abroad as well. Let's take you over to Benidorm, Dougie Beattie.
our last night here tonight, and we have been talking to the Brits abroad and finding out what is going on, what's annoying them, and why they come to Benidorm. Why did you come to Benidorm?
Well, first of all, like, how could you book a weekend in Ireland or anywhere back home in the UK for the price of 5 nights, all-inclusive, flights, accommodation, the whole works, better weather, better lifestyle? You would get half the price for half the time back home.
Half the price, half the time. And you, sure, what about the inflation at home?
Well, it's ridiculous at home, you know what I mean? Home's just gone to dogs at home, you know what I mean? Everything's just all going pear-shaped at home. You know what I mean? That's why it's taking the people away out here, you know what I mean? Where all the people should be back at home to put their money in home. But no, it's not happening.
All right, people, thank you very much. I'm much obliged to have you on GB News, fellow countrymen, of course, of mine, from Northern Ireland, and they're saying exactly the same things are happening there. Inflation's too high, and the reason they come to Benidorm is quite home would cost them twice the price for half the time. So it shows you exactly where this economic structure is going. We're actually chasing people out of our own country, not holidaying at home, and forcing them to come abroad.
Well, there you go. I'm half tempted to join you all. You might see me there on my sun lounge at this time tomorrow. But for now, Dougie BT, thank you. Richie's got in touch saying, single-parent families, Michelle, homes without a father. Why is all of this stuff not being discussed when you talk about poor attainment in white working classes, he says. You need to stop incentivising single-parent families and get back to traditional family values. And he reckons educational outcome will improve as a result. I've only got about a minute left. Quickly tell me, both of you, do you think it's a good thing Robert Jenrick with his flag up a lamppost?
Yeah, I like all those stunts. And I think actually it appeals to the voter. The people it doesn't appeal to are either snooty liberals or actually probably people on his own side. I suspect Tory politicians actually don't like him for it. The voters love him for it.
I'm a snooty liberal in that case because I think he's become the Christopher Biggins of politics.
Do you? Do you think he's jockeying there to be the next leader of the Tories?
Well, there's a great gaping hole where it should be Kemi Badenoch.
I think he's... do you think you'd ever see Kemi Badenoch up a lamppost in that fashion?
No.
Listen, I'll get into that in a little bit more detail because I think it's fascinating what is going on up and down the country. This kind of raise the colours, these flags popping up absolutely everywhere on the one hand, and councils having a meltdown on the other hand because apparently these flags can be dangerous. I find it absolutely fascinating that they didn't seem to think that the Palestinian flags that have fluttered in the breeze for goodness knows how long, apparently those things were not dangerous. Talk about double standards. Anyway, let's get into that in more detail tomorrow. I'll have Matt Goodwin with me then, but for now, to my panel tonight, what a treat for the nation. I very much enjoyed our conversation tonight. I'm going to go and study that 116-year-old and see what she drinks. I'm going to go and join her. Have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening. I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, as we go through the next 24 hours, it's a case of chasing the cloud because where it clears overnight, it's going to turn a little chilly, and where it clears tomorrow, it's going to be quite warm in the sunshine. Currently, there is high pressure of sorts to the west of the UK. This is keeping things pretty settled. It has also brought that northerly flow down the North Sea, which has led to a bit of a chilly feel around eastern parts through today. And it's also leading to a fair bit of cloud across central and eastern parts overnight, albeit parts